Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people, he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side, he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than dead, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn they're spirits, not animals. He said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Welcome back to the Logbook Podcast, everybody.
How y'all doing tonight? We got a great show lined up for you. You got me, Dakota, Kim over here, and Paulie Guns. What's up, Paul?
Doing good. Hope you guys are doing good as well.
Yeah, we are doing fantastic. We've done a lot. Been going on with Congress. We've been in front of our congressmen. We have been at City Hall in Conroe, dealing with a lot of issues with veterans, benefiting veterans all at once. Because the whole point of our podcast, guys, is let's finally fix these issues. Okay, the debt ceiling is rising. We are constantly being used as political pawns to fund these, I would say, heinous programs within the Department of Veteran Affairs, like, giving new office spaces to vision directors. Okay, priceless works of art for the blind.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing we uncovered. The artworks behind glass, guys. So it's not like they can see it or touch it. So completely stupid. But those are some of the things, scandals that we've done. Recycled leadership, of course, the wait time scandal. The American Rescue Plan was meant for COVID, said and promised to you by none other than Joe Biden. However, COVID-19 had nothing to do with the American Rescue Plan that we are finding out. They used it for their everyday spending at the Department of Veteran Affairs. But what's worse, we've actually found out that there was money left over in our city, and Lena Hidalgo just wants to give away free money to people that she picks that are deserving. Tell me if that's not pandering.
Oh, I was surprised. You shared that video the other day with her as she was cussing and swearing and acting like a little kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I was absolutely what we've discovered that in the American Rescue Plan, there was $500 million left over for the Department of Veteran Affairs. What did they do with that money? They didn't put it towards the debt ceiling.
No, they did not. They planned on holding on to it and spending it for future purposes. And with the end of the fiscal year coming up, they have very little time to spend $500 million.
Exactly.
So what kind of crap were they going to buy?
And the thing is, it was for COVID. And if you'll scroll further down our page on Facebook, you will see that there was even theft involved with that, because the COVID-19 supplies that they were getting, an employee was actually caught selling those needed
the equipment that they were buying with it. Employees are, and it's a tale as old as time when it comes to the VA. There's always been people selling equipment out of the back door that comes in, and not even the old equipment. They're selling the new equipment that's coming in.
Exactly. So, guys, if you're just following us or checking in, my name is Kim, and this is Dakota, and this is Paulie Guns. We are Navy veterans, and Paul here is.
So sorry, Paul.
And our here is to investigate the Department of Veteran Affairs. We have brought things before our congressmen. We visit our congressmen constantly, and we try to push legislation to help veterans. Right now, we have the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act, and Congressman Crane on the Department of House Committee, Veteran Affairs House Committee, actually emailed me this week, and they look like they might be co-sponsor 61 for the Veterans Affairs Second Amendment Protection Act. Also, he has co-sponsored the Demand Veteran Healthcare Freedom Act by Marshall Blackburn. Mm-hmm. He will be forwarding those legislations on to Morgan Luttrell, who is also part of the House Committee of Veteran Affairs, along with True Choice Act, so we can finally leave the Department of Veteran Affairs. So that's the work we do, okay? What I have a problem with is that the budget was set, and do not expect any help from charities right now because the budget is set. They are going to be scrambling because they know that there is money allocated in grants for charities like Wounded Warrior Project, several charities. So if you will sit there and actually talk about real issues, you'll see that they're not going to necessarily help you with those real issues because they're not going to, stir the pot so they can get that grant money. Mm-hmm. So in that regards, do charities actually help veterans? The CEO of Wounded Warrior Program makes $385,000 annually. Is that really helpful for veterans? Seems like another scam to me. It's the thing is, the budget was approved for over $300 billion. Veteran Affairs is the second largest bureaucracy. Number one is the Department of Defense. If we don't open those books, it's going to drown the American people, and they're already drowning right now. Do you think that they're actually going to have the money to fund these charities soon? They're not. So it's up to us as veterans also to stand up and hold our government accountable and call them out for the crap that they do, which, in my opinion, after the stuff that we've uncovered recently, Veteran Affairs is money laundering. Straight up.
No other way of saying it, folks.
And the only way they can get away with it is what the Democrats did. It was Mr. Wachowski who put out the information, false information, on the VA's webpage, and you can watch it. And it was 3 hearings ago where he put out false information, politicizing veterans. Mr. Wachowski said that they were going to cut VA funding, that the Republicans were going to cut VA funding. I don't give a crap if it's Republican. I don't care if it's Cheerio at this point. But when you sit there and politicize veterans, why the hell do you even have your job? And I don't care if it's a Democrat thing or a Republican thing, because my problem with Republicans is they don't move either. They only move after the fact. They don't prevent anything from happening. Okay? And it's ridiculous. So basically, this letter was put out saying the funding was cut. That way, the Republicans could not stand against it and open the books. And now, guess what, guys? The money laundering continues for a whole nother year. Instead of COVID money, vision directors got a new office. And a vision is the director of many hospitals, many networks of within Veteran Affairs. So our vision network here is in Houston. It goes all the way to the border of Florida. That's how big our vision network is. Okay, we are the second largest in the United States. We currently have at Michael E. DeBakey the director who was a part of the wait time scandal. He used to be at the Wichita VA, and once he was under investigation, bounced to Houston.
The director of Vision 16, which is what our hospital reports to, the director testified to Congress because of the wait time scandals as well.
It's absolutely disgusting. People need to wake up. You got the second largest bureaucracy being funded by our government, and not one person is asking a question. Veterans are too scared. You should see the inboxes or the messages I get in my inbox. They don't want to lose their benefits. Oh, the FBI is going to come after you. I don't care at this point.
No, we're done. We are done with this. And I know we speak enough about Democrat leaders and their corruption. Everybody knows they're corrupt. Things we need to address our Republican leaders.
Right.
They are cowards.
Absolutely.
At this point, because they are afraid of looking bad in the eyes of the veteran. And what's making them look bad in the eyes of the veteran is the Democrat media. Slander them, saying, oh, this Republican leader hates vets because they're not supporting this bill.
I'll give you an example, which was Ted Cruz. Okay. I am not currently a big fan of Ted Cruz. Okay. We have been trying to talk with him for over a year and get some answers on what's going on with the VA. And at this point, they have, when we went down to their Austin office, they won't even let us in their office. That's not constitutional. But they literally said they have armed security there. Oh, they're here for my protection. Well, who's there for our protection? Ted Cruz, I'm telling you right now, your double standards are showing. You get guns and we don't. Not okay. Don't you dare call yourself a conservative. And it's unpardonable. So that's my problem with Ted Cruz. They just don't want to deal with it. And Paul, you were telling me that about the red flag issue, that you were talking to a congressman who had never heard about it. Can you give us some details?
Yeah. So let me grab his card real quick because I make sure I say his name correctly.
All right.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
So to give you guys what red flags are. So the theory of red flags is to prevent something, to prevent a Timothy McVeigh. So in 2017, James Comey wrote a document called Making Prevention a Reality. Y'all can look it up. Y'all can Google it. Message us if you want the book. We have it. We just, at this point, read it for yourself. It's complete garbage. But it is a gun grab. Most suicide prevention programs within the DOD and the VA system are nothing but gun grabs. And they think that they're going to prevent a Timothy McVeigh or prevent something. But basically, it's this: someone can say something bad about you, you're automatically a threat, then you're under control. When you go to the VA, you will be escorted by police. You put on your little yellow Jewish star and be escorted by armed security because you are a threat. That's actually removing some of your benefits. It's pigeonholed. But the thing is, there's no way. You're supposed to be able to go to a board. You're not allowed to go to the board. And what this board does is they meet with doctors. And according to the Second Amendment, you have to have a doctor. You have to have law enforcement. and then they rule you a mental defect, and that's how you take their guns. In the VA, it's worse.
So I went to that board.
You did?
And you don't have a say so in anything. They tell you we don't want to hear what you have to say. And I asked them why I'm having a disruptive behavior flag put on in my file. And the doctor, the reason why was because I was going to too many town hall meetings, and that was abnormal.
Freedom of speech censored. There you go.
Freedom of assembly censored. Yeah.
I shared with them because I was also passing out flyers to other veterans of who they can go to get help and stuff if they needed help. But what I told them was kind of abnormal is the fact that I had been to quite a few town hall meetings, and I kept seeing the same veterans with the same issues over and over again that weren't getting fixed. To me, that's what's abnormal, not right. I mean,
yeah, my dad, who is also a veteran, used to say this: veterans should be either getting better or dying. That's it, because of age. That's what the VA is there for. But the way that they drag out our care, it's torture.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolute torture. Prisoners at Guantanamo Bay are treated better than veterans. You have homeless veterans on the streets,
Mm-hmm.
but you have illegals that are in New York at these high-end hotels. They actually showed a tent where they had Xboxes, plush couches, gaming systems,
Mm-hmm.
huge screen TVs, but veterans are on the streets. That's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, prisoners at Gitmo have something that the government wants, and that's information. And they
Right.
barter that information and get health care and get treated better and get fixed from the injuries they've incurred in getting into Gitmo.
Right.
So-
But if you want to talk about the drug problem within the veteran community, in 2017, it was proven that the VA fueled the opioid crisis.
so I have a good friend, Sergeant First Class Strand, who got out. He retired from the military. He was addicted to opiates. He was going from one VA to another to get his fix. And his wife basically had to tell him, hey, either you're going to get help or you have to go, because they had kids and stuff and it was affecting the family. So he chose to leave, and he ended up committing suicide because, he just it was all around the opiates. But he could go, if they're like here in Houston, you have Katy, you have Tomball, you have Conroe. Back in 2017, you could go to every one of those and see a different doctor, and they would all prescribe you opiates. That's not the case today, because now they won't even give it to people that need it.
Right. And then on top of that, you actually have felons working in pharmacy for drug-related crimes that are poaching pills. That's not cool. That's just not good either.
No, it's not.
The whole thing, if I look at it this way, if the VA should be seen as an experiment. Okay, it's failed. Thomas Edison, this shit. Start over.
Right.
But anyways, Paul, you had that information, and you were going to tell us more about your red flags. And
Yeah. So Henry Culler, so he's in the 29th district of Texas, and he's a Democrat, but he does a lot for veterans. He's actually on a veterans committee, but for like infrastructure.
Mhm.
So Bill, actually, he's probably maybe he's the one that got the Vision 16 director's offices built. Maybe we need to look into him a little more.
Yeah, especially about that parking garage that was meant for veterans, and it's not meant, and we can't park in it.
But so I ran into him at the airport when I was flying back, and when I got into Houston, we talked, and he was not in no hurry to stop the conversation. He was very interested. And when I brought up a few things. I brought up Joey's bill.
Oh yeah.
And he actually said we need to take care of our soldiers like we take care of the equipment. And he said that things are looking really good. And then the next day, I found out that things are looking really good for Joey's bill. I told him about a few other issues at the VA, but I specifically mentioned about the red flag laws. And according to him, he did not know about the red flag laws. And he did seem truly concerned of what the VA is doing to us. And looking into him, I don't think he was a doctor, he was a lawyer. So, which a lot of politicians were lawyers, but I think that he might be one that might potentially want to help when it comes to the red flag law.
Yeah, that's what people don't understand. Now, I've worked with Texas legislation. I was there through the season this year. I was testifying on HB 1894. I testified on a lot of medical freedom bills. There was one bill, SB 793, which allowed our military who were kicked out from the jab to be reinstated. Now, here's the thing. If you only stick with your two-party system, guys, that's not how you get legislation passed. So you really have to go and speak to your Democrat counterparts. It's like for you military, it's like routing a chip. That's how you get a bill passed. For civilians, it's making a sale. That's what it is. You have to have communication skills. They do want to hear you. They do want to, I tell you what, there's offices in Democrats, they're way nicer sometimes than going to Republican offices.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they'll give you a hug. They'll actually empathize with your situation. However, they'll let you know that they don't agree with it in a very special way. Okay, Democrats argue from feelings. Republicans argue from facts. And then I would say over 3/4 of them are controlled by lobbyists. Mm-hmm. So just know that.
Lobbyists and special interest groups.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but tonight is that's just an update of what we've been doing. We'll keep updating you. Please, again, follow us on Rumble. We're now on Twitter, streaming on Twitter. Follow us on
YouTube, Facebook,
TikTok
even. Yeah. Got some really fun stuff out there. And yours truly over here has done some really nice video work and some really entertaining stuff.
So just let us know if y'all need anything. We do have contacts within the House Committee of Veteran Affairs. We can help you get that information, even with the Senate Committee of Veteran Affairs, which is completely pointless at this. They also had a committee hearing this week, and it was just nothing but filibuster. It was absolutely downright disgraceful. So we are going to go over the House Committee of Veteran Affairs on the IT program. And Congressman Morgan Luttrell takes the head of this committee.
Yeah, and it's a great one. Let's go ahead and share this up. And big screen there.
Here we go.
Play.
Good morning. I'm a Navy man. We try to start on time. Normally at 5 minutes. It irritates everybody, so we're going to start straight at 10 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. The Joint Subcommittee on Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs and Subcommittee on Technology Modernization hearing will come to order. Thank you, Chairman Rosendale, Ranking Member Pappas, Ranking Members Sheriff-List McCormick, for holding this hearing with me today. We are here today to discuss the future of the Department of Veterans Affairs VA benefits claims processing. 10 years ago, VA underwent its first claims modernization initiative when it transformed from a paper-based system to an electronic claims environment. VA accomplished this through the development of the Veterans Benefits Management System, or VBMS. This was an important step for the VA to dig them out of the last claims backlogs crisis. Since VBMS was released, the private financial sector has continued to leverage the latest technology to provide the best experience for their customers and employees. Unfortunately, VBA has struggled to keep pace with private sector, resulting in unreliable and outdated systems. Consequently, VA cannot handle the influx of claims due to the PACT Act thus far. VA estimates that the claims backlog could peak in 2024 at over 730,000 claims. This means veterans may have to wait months, if not years, for a decision. I know that the VA employees are doing their absolute best for our veterans, and they are not satisfied with the level of our customer service. VA can always do better. I was encouraged by the VBA's five-year modernization plan that we are here to discuss today. As part of this plan, VA is piloting automation technology to help decrease the time the process of a claim from months to days and hopefully hours. I understand that the
So since it's locked up,
Yep.
what does he mean when he says the VA employees know they can do better? It sounds like he's actually saying the VA employees are doing a good job.
Well, we did send a whistleblower into Morgan Luttrell's office this week, who is a VA employee that actually did work with claims. So his problem is this. Hi, Chad. Is that there is in the computer, right? A employee will have a certain amount of files that they have to do. Now there's a point system. If they get through as many files in the day, they get rewarded. We don't know what. It might just be, here's your little gold sticker for the day.
No, so what it is, so the points are added up at the end of the day, and that goes towards your eval. If you meet the required amount of points by the end of the day, it's a standard eval for that day. If you go under points, that's something that gets addressed in your eval later on whenever eval time rolls around. You remember eval time in the military, kind of the same way.
But obviously, at the VA, if you don't meet the standard, it doesn't really matter.
Right. But the thing is that the more times than not, these employees are meeting the standards that the VA has set. Is that the VA keeps lowering the standards and not giving them as much work to do.
Okay.
Well, what it is too is that so the patient's records will be in queue, right? They don't automatically fill up. You have to go to your bosses to get more. And there's a breakdown in communication because they'll be sitting there waiting hours to get some in queue, right?
Mhm.
And then they have to sit there because they're under a time crunch to get those points, and they're not reading them. And then I know this is that actually talking to one of the VA employees, he said it's every doctor kind of writes differently too. And then you're not a doctor. You don't necessarily understand what is what.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be in a place of guessing. So it's like you actually, to do the claims, it's almost like you have to be a doctor to fully understand the extent of injury.
I was actually offered a job at Texas Veterans Commission a couple of years ago, and to be a raider, or not a raider, to be a what do they call them, the VSO, Veteran Service Officer, or whatever.
Yes,
and they actually send you to school, and when you get done, you're almost like an RN, because you have to learn the anatomy. It's a pretty extensive course they send you to, because the fact that you are reading stuff from doctors, you're making medical decisions. And when you start out there, it's like $30,000. When you get done with their schooling, which takes about 2 years, and it's local colleges, they bump you up to almost $60,000 a year. But those aren't the VA employees; those are state employees that are working for Texas Veterans Commission to help us.
right. Yeah, that's it. Do you want to try this again? Is it fixed?
Yeah, we should be working fine.
So let's keep going.
like to learn more about the steps VA is taking over the next 2 years to develop this technology and whether or not VA can be more aggressive in its timeline. I'd also like to discuss how VA is prioritizing where to invest its modernization efforts. I hope the VA is thoroughly considering the pain points in the claims process and how technology can help reduce the time and expense to complete these tasks. I also would like VA to provide the assurance that it is investing in state-of-the-art technology that is agile and able to modernize on a continual basis. Simply put, veterans and employees deserve the best IT available in the technology industry now and in the future. This is how VA prevents a backlog and how veterans get decisions in hours instead of months. Thank you to all the witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to your insight and feedback on this issue. With that, I yield to the ranking member for his opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today to help us understand how VA intends to modernize VBA's IT systems and improve the quality and timeliness of veterans' disability claims. Now, the PACT Act is easily the most consequential piece of veterans legislation in past generations, and it represents the most significant expansion of veterans' health care benefits in decades. When Congress passed PACT, we recognized that it would dramatically increase the number of claims that VBA would have to manage. To date, veterans have filed almost 600,000 PACT Act claims in addition to the 1.1 million non-PACT Act claims filed during the same period. The department must invest heavily in its IT and human infrastructure to ensure that these claims are processed in a timely manner and that veterans don't wait years for their benefits. Claims examiners have repeatedly complained to us that VBA's IT systems do not support the work that they do and frequently make their jobs even harder. We've heard that VBMS suffers from frequent system latency and downtimes, and that system crashes sometimes make them lose their work and have to start over. And that was even before the additional crunch of hundreds of thousands of PACT Act claims. This frustration is compounded by the fact that lost productivity due to unstable IT affects the employee's performance rating. VBA needs to evaluate how its IT systems and related policies could be negatively impacting its workforce. We can't afford to lose skilled claims examiners because of poor IT systems. When PACT was being drafted, we recognized the importance of the IT system. So in Section 701 of the PACT Act, Congress mandated that VA develop a plan for the modernization of VBA's IT systems. The committee received the plan in March of this year, and while there are a lot of good ideas in it, I have questions about how they are going to fix the issues that we have raised by VBA personnel, that we hear raised by VBA personnel, issues that predate PACT Act and yet continue to this day. In fact, in 2015, the Government Accountability Office released a report on VBMS that indicated in part that VBA would benefit from a customer satisfaction survey of VBMS end users and incorporating that feedback into efforts to deploy the system. I would argue that it would also be beneficial for VBA to use a similar survey to guide any modernization efforts. Unfortunately, when I asked about such surveys during our May 16th hearing, it didn't sound like either VBA or OIT had been conducting them. Nobody knows the disconnect between VBMS and the claims workflows like the claims examiners, and it would be in everyone's best interest if VA asked for their thoughts. I hope to hear from the witnesses today how VA intends to incorporate the feedback from frontline employees in its efforts to modernize IT systems and how they intend to use technology to address the growing backlog of benefits claims. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member.
So, they had discussed last week with IT, and we had a Federation of Employment.
Of government employees, yes.
It's not. I love how they saw this issue, and the Federation of Government Employees said it's the leadership. It's not the computers. It's leadership. He said it was a breakdown of the pretty much the human network.
Right.
Okay. So what did the VA House Committee do? Oh, let's blame IT for it.
Let's blame IT. Let's blame the equipment. If they have better equipment, then they can understand what we're trying to get across, right?
Let's throw more money at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It couldn't be us. We're awesome.
Again, it's that when I know that we're taught this, and I was a maintainer. When the computer breaks, you go to paper. And what it is that they don't have that level of expectation that we had at the Department of Defense. So when the computers suck, the computers break, oops. I'm just going to sit there and wait. I'll be honest with you. I don't believe for 1 second that the majority of the employees who are still working at home, by the way, from COVID-19, they are still in their homes, are actively looking to fill their queues. I don't believe it for 1 second.
They're probably working a second job.
No, probably watching Netflix. Is there any more seasons of Stranger Things?
Oh, yeah, there is actually. but yeah, the thing is, people don't quit work. People don't quit equipment. People quit managers. That's more, I would say 80% of the time, people quit their management.
I would have to disagree because the VA, their employees are not, they're not the best.
No, they're not.
Okay. Their moral and ethical codes of the people that they hire are not normal. And if you walked into a VA, you would understand what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
It is almost like what you would, it's all diversity hires, guys, is what it is. It's not qualified people. And it's a very hostile place.
And I can agree with that. I mean, it seems like all the good people that work there are whistleblowing, or they're trying to do their jobs.
Or they quit.
They get fired, or they quit. They get let go or laid off, some sort of stuff. Or even we've seen stories where they get demoted. They get sent them to the mailroom, and they send them to janitorial duties even.
Yeah, because they whistleblow. And remember, whistleblower protection is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I was having an issue with getting to see a doctor through the Mission Act, and one of the employees that worked in care in the community called me on a Sunday at night to help me because he was looking over my file and he realized that for whatever reason I wasn't being taken care of. Well, he was written up because he called me on a Sunday night to help me. What he got in trouble for is helping me. It wasn't the fact that he called at night and on a Sunday. It was he was helping Paul Guns, and they don't like me.
nope. That's it. All right. Oh, but I will want to tell you before we continue, VBMS was created from the wait time scandal. The wait time scandal happened in between 2014 and 2016, where it killed 307,000 veterans, and an OIG report did reveal that. So add this to screen and go ahead.
Ranking member, the chair now recognizes Chairman Rosendale for his opening statement.
I want to thank Chairman Luttrell, Ranking
I
Member
love
Pappas,
Rosendale.
and Ranking Member Sheriff-List McCormick for organizing this hearing with me. Improving the disability compensation claims process is one of my top priorities. Millions of veterans around the country receive disability benefits from the VA. These benefits are not some sort of entitlement. They are compensation for the sacrifice of those who serve this great nation and carry with them illnesses, wounds, and scars from their service. The federal government also owes them an effective process to apply for and obtain these benefits. The Department of Veterans Affairs has a number of IT projects that, frankly, do not make sense even on paper. We've discussed them in our previous hearings. This effort is absolutely where we should be concentrating time and resources. Veterans deserve rapid decisions through a transparent process. Unfortunately, they're struggling with 1950s era procedures and the hodgepodge of dysfunctional IT systems. The Veterans Benefits Management System is barely 10 years old, but it needs substantial upgrades to keep pace with the VA's needs. The Board of Veterans Appeals is still attempting to put an end-to-end system in place. The VA started introducing some basic automation a few years ago. That is, without question, the right approach. The only way to avoid another major claims backlog is to give employees advanced automation tools to eliminate menial tasks and boost productivity. However, the rudimentary automation VA has today is closer to the state-of-the-art 1990s rather than 2023. The automation still has a long way to go to make meaningful impact. We need to close the gap very quickly in order to handle the tidal wave of claims stemming from the PACT Act and prevent another huge backlog. This committee required a 5-year benefits IT modernization plan in the PACT Act. This plan is meant to spell out exactly how the department intends to spend the toxic exposure fund dollars allocated to IT. We've seen the consequences of handing over billions of dollars with no strings attached before. I'm encouraged that the VA has submitted a serious detailed plan that lays out the 97 upgrades or projects over the course of the next 5 years and estimates the cost of each one. I have no doubt that if the plan can be accomplished, the Veterans Benefits Administration would be in much better place at the conclusion. Unfortunately, we need those modern systems and enhanced automation capabilities today because the disability compensation claims from the PACT Act are already starting to roll in. I appreciate our witnesses joining us today for this important and timely discussion about the VA needs and what they to do to get this one right and make good on the promise made to the veterans in the PACT Act. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you, Chairman Rosendale. The chair now recognizes Ranking Member Sheriff McCormick for opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the passage of the PACT Act, Congress fulfilled its promise to veterans to honor their service and recognize toxic exposure as a cost of war. Included in the law is much-needed funding for modernization of veteran benefits management system. This is intended to benefit veterans and the VA employees alike. New funding is meant to streamline claims processing for benefits and improve antiquated systems.
My
that have been
computer just like
underfunded
shut
for
down for a
decades.
sec.
The Technology
video stayed going,
Modernization
though.
Subcommittee has
Yeah.
conducted extensive oversight of
Good about
VA
that.
modernization and IT contracting. A common thread has been a fundamental lack of planning, budgeting, and adherence to contracting.
Hey, Chad, if you ever
by
wanted
VA
to come
its
on and
contracting
explain the
centers.
IT situation,
VA acquisition
I think
management has
Dakota
been on
sent you a link.
the GAO's high-risk list since 2019. GAO has cataloged issues with competition for
GAO, Government Accountability Office.
while VA's annual IT obligations have increased from $4.2 billion in 2017 to $6.5 billion in 2021, the number of companies receiving those awards has decreased. We must ensure the VA does not make similar mistakes when modernizing VBMS. The cost to the government and, more importantly, the cost to our veterans are too high. VA must show a commitment to planning, budgeting, and execution of improvements that benefit veterans and the employees. As a result, I've co-sponsored Ranking Member Takano's IT Modernization Improvement Act. This will require VA to contract for independent verification and validation for these major IT programs to include the Veterans Benefits Management Systems. As we have seen with other failed modernization initiatives, VA no longer gets the benefit of the doubt on contracting process. We need this bill to provide checks and balances on the acquisition process for modernizing VBMS. Veterans and employees should not have to suffer for a lack of successful modernization again. While we work towards modernizing the IT system for veterans, I also want to highlight the impact that antiquated systems have had on the VA employees. Issues with interoperability, issues with reliability, and basic functionality have persisted for too long. We have an opportunity to provide a system that enables our employees to be more efficient and provide better service for our veterans. This means that the VA needs to listen to their employees when it comes to developing requirements for new systems. We've seen what a lack of prior work to standardize workflows across regional offices leads to.
Oh my
We need to
God,
hold
she's just
VA management
repeating
accountable for
herself
creating a system that works
because
for all
she
employees.
can't find the
Plus, this
freaking
kind of
words.
requirements
Completely
development.
ridiculous.
With that, I look forward to hearing from our witnesses, and I yield back.
She
Mr.
won't.
Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'll now introduce the witness panel.
Gonna go ahead and pause that. So basically, we have a good buddy here that talked about IT last week, and he said what's going on with the IT is more of a nationwide problem. You have these companies that are coming along and they're buying up the little IT companies, and because of that, it's caused, I would say, a monopoly of sorts. And that's what's causing us not to use these smaller, bracketed, more efficient companies. And it's, again, money laundering, because the VA will actually spend more money on these contracts. And what happens is that if these guys within the VA, they get in trouble, guess what job they're going to? And that's the kicker. It's absolutely disgusting.
So I'll tell you what I think is funny is that if the VA efficiently and effectively got our ratings done quickly, it would cost them money. So by slowing it down, it delays our payments. But it's funny, and there, and as far as veterans go, I think we're only like 2% of the population.
So there are 16.5 million veterans. There are 4.5 million disabled veterans, and half of those don't even use the VA.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we all did, we're still a pretty small percentage of the whole population. And the IRS is able to get everybody's taxes done every year to make sure they get our money. So if their computer system can work, and I know we're talking medical condition versus taxes, but there's some tax situations like Donald Trump's, his business. I mean, they're probably more complicated than a lot of our claims, just because there's so much to. So I think you could kind of compare the two of them, and it's funny how when it benefits the government, they get it done quick and it works.
Exactly. They could fix this overnight. Come on, we took Fallujah in 2 weeks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But my VA, Dakota said it perfectly. The VA works perfect.
Yeah.
For the government, not for the veteran. Okay.
It's not made for us. It's made for them.
But that federal employee guy last time.
Federal employee guy.
Yeah, from the last IT hearing. Remember his name? Bump, I believe.
Bump. Yeah, I think
Mr. Bump. He said what he does not understand, along with the OIG, Office Inspector General, they said that they do not understand why civilians can darn well get their freaking records in 1 day. And the VA takes months and years. They're saying 2 years is the wait time right now for your claims to be done. That's ridiculous. And private sector can do it in a day. Guess what, guys? Trump was right. Privatize the VA. Again, Demand Veteran Healthcare Freedom Act does that, and True Choice Act. So look up those bills, call your congressman, get them to co-sponsor that piece of legislation. You all ready to go?
Yep.
You got anything else, Paul?
No, it'd be interesting to see how long Social Security disability claims take for people, if it's taken as long.
5 years for me.
Oh, okay, so that's an issue too.
Yeah, I didn't do it. It was my doctor in San Diego that did it.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who told me to do it. So
But at the same time, I would think most people who are filing for Social Security disability are people who are retiring.
Yeah,
they're getting they're filing through, they're retiring from these companies. I bet a lot of these private companies have lawyers that help them out.
Yeah.
Come up with retiring, because all these companies have lawyers.
Because I still have way more surgeries to do.
One thing that I read the other day is if you're permanent and total, when you file a Social Security claim, if you let them know, your claim gets expedited. And a lot of veterans don't realize that, so their claim takes longer.
I didn't work with that when I did mine.
Yeah, but I just read it the other day. You have to, if you specify your permanent total and you bring your VA letter, you get expedited when you're filing a Social Security claim.
I did not know that. That would have been helpful.
That would have been helpful. Let's keep going.
Our first witness from the Department of Veterans Affairs is Mr. Raymond Tellez, Acting Assistant Deputy Undersecretary for Automated Benefits Delivery with the Veterans Benefits Administration. He is accompanied by Mr. Robert Orifice, Director of the Benefits and Memorial Service Portfolio for the Office of Information and Technology. We are also joined by Mr. David Bump, National Representative for the National Veterans Affairs Council and Second Vice President for the VBA at Local 2157 for the American Federation of Government Employees. Thank you all for being here today. Mr. Tellez, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to deliver your opening statement.
Oh, cool.
Good morning, Chairman Luttrell, Chairman Rosendale, Ranking Member Pappas, Ranking Member Sherfulis,
This guy has a bunch of lies.
and members of the subcommittee. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you to discuss VA's plan for modernization of VBA's information technology systems. I'm joined today by Robert Orifice, Benefits and Memorial Services Portfolio in VA's Information Technology. VBA and OIT have a long history of partnering to deploy technology solutions that improve claims processing to deliver benefits to those who have served our nation with honor and courage. Before 2012, the floors at the VA regional offices were buckling under the weight of paper claims folders and VA staff physically boxing and shipping claims folders from regional office to regional office. To address the situation, VA underwent a historic transformation, moving from a completely paper-based system to an electronic claims processing system. The introduction of the Veterans Benefits Management System, or VBMS, along with VBA's digitization of millions of paper claims folders, was key to moving VA to an electronic processing environment. Today's VBMS has changed significantly from the start of the digital journey. Every week, VBMS is updated with enhancements and optimizations to improve system resiliency, increase claims processors' productivity, and modernize system components. As a result of VA's continued investment in VBMS, VBA's digitization of inbound paper mail, and developing a paperless claims process, VA maximized telework capabilities during the COVID-19 pandemic to minimize employee impact while still maintaining service to veterans. The inability to conduct in-person medical examinations and access paper federal records led to a temporary increase in the claims backlog. VBA has reduced the backlog by approximately 100,000 in fiscal year 2022, and we continue to make progress in 2023. But lessons from the global pandemic highlighted the need for increased digitization of relevant paper records and evidence, leveraging of data, and utilizing existing medical evidence to avoid ordering unnecessary exam. In December 2021, VBA established a proof of concept for automated decision support, or ADS. ADS leverages technology, automated administrative tasks, and workflows in the claims process by determining eligibility, gathering evidence, and auto-ordering exam when necessary for consistent, accurate, and timely decisions. Based on the measured success at this site, the automation capabilities were expanded to additional medical conditions and 8 regional offices. On August 10th, 2022, the passage of the PACT Act expanded VA care and benefits to millions of veterans and their survivors, resulting in a surge of claims, as well as an increase in the number of employees using VA IT systems to process these claims. While VA has and will continue to hire more people to process claims, adding more personnel is only one facet of the solution. VA must equip our new and existing employees with the right tools to enhance productivity. Today, 57 automation-eligible diagnostic codes, including all 26 PACT Act presumptive conditions, have expanded to 16 regional offices. VBA is on track to expand automation to additional 103 diagnostic codes related to some of the most frequently claimed conditions, such as hearing loss, mental health, and musculoskeletal conditions. Additionally, VBA and OIT partnered to create VA's 5-year modernization plan for IT benefit systems to improve claims processing efficiency and create more reliable and resilient systems, where systems are regularly improved with the most up-to-date technology. VA will evolve its approach to leveraging data to anticipate needs and proactively serve service members, veterans, and their families. IT modernization is an ongoing investment that will continue beyond the 5 years, allowing VA to shift its focus from veterans requesting help to VA providing a service. And this includes simplifying the process of submitting claims and proactively notifying veterans when they are entitled to additional benefits and services. The modernization of the VBA corporate database and transition of IT systems to the cloud directly supports VA's ability to respond to these challenges. Additional cloud resources have been added to VBMS, allowing the system to handle the increased PACT Act claims and additional users. Many components of VBMS have been completely modernized to use modern tools and cloud services, with efforts underway to modernize the remaining
If it
VBMS
has, then it
modules.
would be fixed.
And this will allow VA to
So much
eliminate
of
older,
shit.
inefficient legacy systems that fail to meet VA's current needs. VA is confident that the modernization roadmap will provide a modernized enterprise and automated decision tools to ensure VBA systems remain current, reliable, and flexible to meet the critical needs of veterans. I want to express my appreciation of your continued support of service members, veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors, and thank you for the opportunity to be before the committee today, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. The written statement of Mr. Tellez will be entered into the hearing record. Mr. Bump, you are now recognized for 5 minutes,
I
sir.
like Mr. Bump a lot.
Chairman Luttrell, Chairman Rosendale, Ranking Member Pappas, Ranking Member Sheriff-List McCormick, and members of the subcommittee. The American Federation of Government Employees and its National Veterans Affairs Council.
Guys, we're going to add Mr. Chad Candy here, who is an IT specialist. He has worked for the government, but he did work specifically with IT.
within IT. And Chad is our guru in all things IT. He even helps us from time to time fix out bugs in the show. What's
I'm
up,
not,
Chad?
not much. Well, not much today. Just recovering from all the people visiting. So
Yeah.
I tagged my father-in-law in this because he works in IT too on when I shared it. But I don't know. He said he's at a Navy reunion right now. So down here in Florida.
Wow. He's drunk.
He's drunk as hell. You know he is.
He doesn't drink anymore, so he's got a lot of health problems too going through the VA. So I was hoping he's on disability now, but yeah, I guess he's part of a fighter squadron, and they have reunions every 5 to 10 years here in Florida. So, and it's the first one he's been to. So,
well, Chad, there's a problem. We briefly discussed it. Can you tell us what the problem in IT is in general with the government?
well, I think part of the problem they have in IT is it's not just with the VA, it's with anything, and the government's got their fingers into anything with healthcare pretty much. And instead of making things faster, they just keep on adding more and more stuff to it that they have to comply with in order to get any of that. And like you were talking about with privatizing the VA, this isn't really IT related, but the problem with privatizing is what y'all have covered before about all these places that they've privatized to being closed. They're not even there anymore. So, but I think they could do so much if they just streamlined IT instead of investing more and more money trying to fix. It's kind of like whenever you have a road that's completely torn up and you just keep spending money to patch the holes in the road instead of just redoing the whole road.
So that's the whole point of the VA. It's just that's what they do. They just add more red tape,
Right.
more red tape, more red tape. And if you do that with the computer, of course, it's going to bog it down.
And patch it and patch it up and patch it up. And then they patch in this software, but they don't delete any of the old software.
Yeah, you
so
can't
everything gets bogged down.
And that is so common with healthcare that is governed by the government, pretty much.
Well, sorry, Chad.
Oh, I was just saying that's the problem you have with healthcare stuff like that is it costs so much money to bring in new software to fix all this stuff, and then it's not compatible with any of the old stuff. And I know you were talking about people working from home and stuff, and a lot of the IT department probably can work from home. And you were also talking about, or I think Paul said something about them having second jobs. Well, that was something that when I worked for IT, we were under fire for, because you were able to work from home and they were working 2 jobs of the same type at the same time. And it was something like they claimed something like 30% of the workforce doing that, which I find it really hard to believe, because whenever I was doing that kind of stuff, I didn't have time to do anything besides work at my company. So I don't know if that's what's going on at the VA. That could have been a government number for all I know. So,
well, I do know this is that they do have another system, and Kim Norrid was talking about it when she was on the show. The amount of money that is still used for those networks. And then there is actually some fraud cases, again, with the OIG and the Government Accountability Office. She has been looking into that, and I think we'll update with y'all on the next show on what we found with the old network system. Mm-hmm. That has been a huge problem and a lot of fraud.
We know when it comes to the Mission Act, one of the reasons doctors don't like it is because any other insurance that's out there, they can verify insurance through their computer. With the Mission Act, they physically have to call somebody within the Mission Act and verify that I'm eligible under the Mission Act, which can take 10 to 15 minutes for that phone call.
Another huge problem with the VA is that the VA's computers don't talk with any other outside computers.
And that's not surprising.
Urgent cares, pharmacies, other hospitals, they don't communicate.
That's not surprising.
When Kimberly, when you had your gallbladder removed, your doctor had to physically call Veterans Affairs.
Right. And they didn't pick up the phone the first time. And he had to call and call and call. And it was like 45 minutes until he could get through to somebody. And then because there are non-answerable lines within the Department of Veteran Affairs. which is absolutely astonishing to me. I know the director of community care has at Mike Lee DeBakey a non-answerable line. I have a video of that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
And it's disgusting. But I agree with you, Chad. Just the red tape is going, and the red tape has always been consistent. It's even with our medical care. In 2014, I was diagnosed with an inchondroma tumor in my right arm, and they put a Band-Aid on it. Here's drugs. Oh, it's in your head. You know, they gave me a whole bunch of medicines. I was pilled. I was medicated heavily. And then there's nothing you can do to cure an inchondroma. You have to have surgery. But 5 years later, that's what they do. That's what red tape is. And if we do that with our computer systems, it's going to bring more of a backlog if we come again with that attitude. But again, this is the Republicans for you. Democrats will cause the problem. Republicans will clean up their shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it is.
Pretty much.
And it's it's after the fact, after their death, and both of them can't wake up to this bullshit.
And what are you going to do after they die? You know,
that's why I like.
I wouldn't even say it's them waking up, because that would mean that they're stupid. But they are stupid. However, that leaves out the element of cowardice. Thing is, they know what's going on here, and they're afraid of what their public image will be if they claim to be Republican conservative, and they can have something spun out of control about them that they're against the veteran community.
I don't even know if, when it comes to IT and a lot of this stuff, I don't even know if a lot of them even know what's going on. Like that lady that was just speaking with the two last names. And she was talking about, I can't remember his name. I know you know Kim, the California guy that's, I don't see how, the Tanaka or whatever his name is.
Takano, yeah.
Yeah, Takano. I mean, I don't think he can't even describe what a woman is. So,
yeah,
you know, he kicks people out of his office for asking what is a woman. So I don't know if he probably is that dumb. You know, I mean, to be honest with you.
She used her bullet point to sit there and push legislation from the Kano, which is dumping more money inside Veteran Affairs, creating more red tape, which is more backlog, and I'm 100% against. Just privatize the VA, let us go where we want, give us our freedom, and that's what it is. It's all about control.
And I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Y'all ready to get going on this?
Let's keep it playing. I'm gonna throw it up. Oh, didn't go.
Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. My name is David Bump, and I'm a national rep for the National VA Council and serve as a vice president for AFG Local 2157 in Portland, Oregon. I've had the privilege of serving veterans in VBA for 21 years.
Why didn't they pill
On behalf of
someone
the
from
thousands
Texas?
of VBA
Oregon?
employees AFGE represents,
Please,
50% of whom are veterans themselves,
someone that'll take
it's a privilege
easy.
to offer AFGE's views on the IT challenges facing VBA and suggestions to address those problems and better serve veterans. In regards to the VA's 5-year modernization plan, AFGE supports the use of technology to better enable VBA's processors to perform their duties and best serve veterans. However, we are concerned about the negative effect on veterans of replacing human processors with technology. AFGE strongly supports the work done by lawmakers to protect VBA employees and to make sure that all claims have to be reviewed at some point during the process by human claims processors. It is important that our collective approach to the use of technology emphasize that information technology supplement and not supplant the VBA's workforce. The main point I want to address today is the Veterans Benefits Management System. While VBMS serves its purpose, there is certainly room for improvement from the perspective of the end user. The most serious problem that claims processors raise about VBMS is its reliability or lack thereof. The system often crashes or requires rebooting, delaying claims processors from doing their required work. Claims processors justifiably fear when the system goes down that they may suffer consequences to their performance metrics through no fault of their own. Another complaint about VBMS is its lack of interoperability with other systems. A clear example of this is provided by the Houston Regional Office, is related to letters that claims processors send to veterans to inform them of their decisions. Many do not automatically populate information requiring multiple data entry points and can often lead to errors. The process for getting a veteran service treatment record is also clear examples of problems with inoperability. The Portland regional office cited that VBMS will automatically pull up STRs from a veteran who served in a modern war from the Hames system. However, for veterans who have served further in the past, VBMS makes a request for the data from the older PIES system, but does not record its own request. This leads to the employee having to make a manual entry in VBMS, but may also create duplicate requests in PIES, further wasting time. The Cleveland regional office cited problems with the joint legacy viewer. When using JLV to view a veteran's record, each document must be opened separately, saved, and then uploaded into VBMS. Additionally, if a processor attempts to upload too many documents at once, the system may not work and the employee must start over. Another key criticism of the system for RVSRs comes from the Pittsburgh office. RVSRs in this facility identified that VBMSR requires them to enter multiple levels of special monthly compensation on a veteran's claim. This requires multiple steps. VBMS will not create the narrative for both levels of SMC unless the employee uses the system this way. This can lead to errors and can create over or underpayments if not done correctly. Also, if SMC is awarded temporarily, RVSRs must manually end the SMC even though they initially entered an end date, because if they do not, the veteran will never stop being paid. To improve VBMS, it would be better if claims processors could rate certain conditions at the same time and then be able to merge them based on higher evaluation rules. Fixing these problems would greatly reduce time spent on claims from workarounds, reduce erroneous decisions, and deliver a higher quality product to our nation's veterans. Another critical technology of the claims process is the National Work Queue. AFGE strongly supports the use of a special operations model for as many claims as the system will support. VBA does this currently for military sexual trauma and Camp Lejeune water contamination claims, among others, and encourages their expanded use. AFGE also encourages the VA to modify the National Work Queue so that cases remain with the same RO for employee review. Every RO, despite uniform rules, has its own way of conducting specific tasks, and having employees who are more familiar with each RO's standard procedures will help process cases efficiently. Additionally, by better identifying which employee worked on a particular claim, better collaboration between employees can be achieved, leading to time savings. Lastly, NWQ should be reprogrammed to allow VSRs and RVSRs to always have access to all readily available claims. Despite the national claims backlog, it is a common refrain from employees that they do not have enough work assigned to meet their production standards. Although National Work Queue was designed in part to maximize VBA's claim processing capacity, it is counterproductive to deny employees access to all available claims when the technology to do so already exists. Claims processors should be focused on taking care of veterans and requesting work. In conclusion, VBA must use employee feedback as it modernizes its IT systems to help veterans. AFGE and the NVAC stand ready to work with Congress and VBA to reach this goal. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, sir. The written statement of Mr. Bump will be entered into the hearing record. We will now move to questioning. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Bump, I hope you share your statement.
Y'all are on mute, by the way.
Yeah,
we figured that out.
We're trying to get that fixed. But yeah, Mr. Bump has a lot to say. But why are they getting someone from Oregon to come and speak? A place that does not have that many veterans as some of the other states, such as I would understand California. They have a ton of veterans. I'd understand New York, but why not Texas? Why not one of the largest veteran populations in the nation, or the largest veteran population in the nation? Why not get someone to speak from here on what's going on in the VA?
What's going on in Oregon, by the way?
So actually, Oregon is one of the better VAs. That's why a buddy of our name of that we know, a shipmate of ours, moved there, is because
really?
the better ones. So again, this one is planted. They were going to send the best of the people, not the worst of the worst, to actually actively see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So That's what's going on.
Now, when it comes to VA claims, years ago, claims that were originated in Houston stayed in Houston.
Mhm.
So Houston you might have a wait time of 3 years to get a claim done, but maybe in Oregon, where there's less veterans submitting claims, you only had 1 year. So now they go into a national pool, and they're supposed to be given to each area. So like when I filed my last claim, it was actually handled up in Minnesota, I think it was, because their workload was less. It's as they finish a claim, the next one in line is supposed to be police to whoever's next in line. It could go anywhere in the United States.
I was actually just looking at something a few minutes ago talking about the best places to live for veterans, and Minnesota was one of the top ones. So I don't know how true that is because they ranked it on a bunch of different stuff. So, and,
my claim went very smoothly.
that's good, at least. That's very
Yeah.
good.
At least you have that.
So, but another thing you have to look at with this is the VA is trying to put all this automation in, and it's kind of like whenever in 2008, whenever the economy crashed and the unemployment office was trying to put in all this stuff, and you would sit on hold for 4 hours because your automated claim didn't go through. And I totally believe that about them putting in too many documents and the system crashing. And so they have to start all over again. And that's also, even though I'm not against people working at home in IT, since I really enjoyed working from home in IT, but you got to think now all that stuff that used to be in one building getting processed is now processed over VPNs, which is even more of a lag on everything.
Right.
You're going to be slowed down by a VPN on top of it. A very secure VPN, not like Nord, whatever it is, not like the ones you see advertised for us. This is stuff you got to have. You can't just download and put on your computer and put your name and password in. This is
right. You need like Forta tokens. You need like verification access and then clearance as well.
And then the company has to, because if it detects that you're trying to log in, then it's going to be like, hey, this person doesn't have the right signature on their computer. So you need to, like, if you get a new computer, you're going to have to go through the whole process of signing up again, which only takes about 2 hours to get it back in. But I've been dropped from the network hundreds of times, especially from the government side of the network. And you're not allowed to copy and paste hardly anything there. Like they were saying, you have to upload all these documents. Sometimes you even need a manager's approval to upload them. Then it gets copied into another system, and then it gets copied into another system, which are all ran by 3 or 4 different vendors. And then 3 or 4 more vendors handling the hardware side of it. And I guess it's, once again, the government saying, do as I say, not as I do, because they're talking about stuff needing to be rebooted and everything. Well, the Department of Defense on the healthcare side, which I know is separate from the VA, but it's also included in it, they require you to have multiple redundant systems.
Mm-hmm.
So if one system is crashing, or one overloaded server is not supposed to crash the whole system, especially if you're in a federally moderated or not controlled, but if you're having to go by STIGs is what they call it, which is the Security Technical Implication Guidelines is what I think it stands for.
Mhm.
So what I'm hearing is, like, it sounds like there's a governor on the broadband that they're using, so it doesn't get overloaded.
No, well, there's not a governor. It's just, it's slowed down. Like you're doing a show right now and your internet gets flaky.
Yeah.
So now you've added an extra layer of protection. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good example. It's kind of like a police escort in a sense, but if you're being escorted by the police, then it's probably going to be slower than if you just drove the highway by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But then you could be robbed at any moment or anything else like that. But if you got a police escort, then you're wrapped around police. So they're going to have to try a lot harder to get you, I guess is what it'd be,
That's understandable.
I'm sure you've seen advertisements for VPNs and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean we have a VPN.
Right.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the thing is, we don't see much of a difference with our VPN, but I can imagine over a massive network with thousands of employees,
Right,
running computers all at the same time, network, and they all have different VPNs, or they all have to be signed into that VPN. Yeah, I can see it running extremely slow.
So I mean, like ours was Cisco, which I'm sure you've heard of Cisco before.
Mm-hmm.
So we ran under Cisco and RSA. So RSA was part of the security, which are the little tokens you usually get. And I had 3 tokens working for my IT when I did IT for 3 different networks. So, or for about 5 different networks.
And then doesn't just the fact that when people are working from home, some people, their internet service isn't that great.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. That's kind of what I was saying also, is that it's overloading the network in a sense. So all these people working from home, you're wanting to add more IT stuff, but a lot of that IT stuff might be just for upgrading the VPNs and stuff. And then, like you said, if you're working from home, your internet might be extremely slowed down by it, or might just go out because now everybody's working from home. So look how much more of a lag that is on the internet service, the internet service provider. So, and whereas just like electricity, whereas used to nobody would be home during the day, now everybody's at home and nobody's in the office, but the office, that was one big PowerPoint or one big, now they're using more electricity, just like they're using more bandwidth.
Right.
And then you have to go through the security protocols also. So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Which is going to slow everything down.
Well, guys, you want to get back into it and get started on
that's just from the bandwidth side of it. I'm sorry. So
yeah, we talked quite a bit on that, but we're out to
go ahead.
These guys grilled. See what's going to happen.
Statement with the 2 gentlemen sitting to your right flank there. That's I'm assuming both of you were listening. That's an extensive laundry list of issues that we need to be addressing. So is that going to be the case, Mr. Bump?
Yes.
Have you guys, I'm assuming that's not the first time we've heard that, correct?
Those specific issues, I would say probably over time. I look forward to discussing his testimony, Mr. Bump, his testimony, talk through some of those. But we do get employee feedback often. Yes.
One of the biggest feedbacks that I got traveling around visiting the regional facilities was that exact list, and it seems to be reoccurring. So my point is, I keep hearing the same thing over and over again. And I think, and that's something we most certainly need to address. Moving forward, this is for the panel. Either one of you can answer this. My concern is that there will not be enough oversight for the implementation of this program, and will end up being like the EHR system, 20 years outdated and billions of dollars over budget. Who of you, or whom is responsible for the oversight of the implementation of this program?
So thank you, Chairman. We have tiered governance that's set up to oversee this program.
No, I need a name. Don't give me that tiered government thing, because that means it's going to get lost in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, so I am the lead of the 701B execution IPT that is responsible for running this plan and making sure that we have updates there. And then we have the executive lead, George Waddington, who is my executive lead over this IPT overseeing the 701B modernization plan.
Okay, so once we start implementing this, you're who I'm coming to if I need any questions answered.
I am who you're coming to for any questions.
Can you give me an idea moving forward with the amount of backlog that we have, and then the time frame of implementation of this program in parallel, I'm assuming, as our employees are working hard and diligently to make sure that this backlog is taken away? Can you give me an assessment? Because 2 years, it's quite a long time. And as my colleague to my right stated, they're the ones that are suffering. Can you give me an estimation on when that backlog and how that backlog will be reduced once this program is online?
Thank you, Chairman. I think we are expecting the backlog to grow a little bit through 24 and then drop dramatically in 25. A lot of that is dependent on the incremental releases as we adopt more technology, as we implement some of the features that are in the 701B plan. We do have some coming up that I think will be very impactful to employees. A part of it is the ADS, the automated data support that I'm driving for claims automation, which does a lot of the automation for tasks associated with the claims process. Our intent there is to use evidence of record, so ordering exams, service validation, and then being able to present to the employees the information they need to make the decision on those issues faster. We're also looking at technology that takes the veteran's file and allows those claims processors to be able to search the file much faster. We call that smart search. We're expected to deploy that in summer. That will add some tremendous value, reduce that claims development time as employees are looking for the necessary records to determine whether they need to order an exam or make a claim ready for decision for raters. We've also got new technology we are testing now called automated data ingestion. That is where we are taking veterans who have an exam, they see a provider, they get a disability benefits questionnaire filled out and completed and returned back to us. The UBMS ingests the data, the computable data from that DBQ, and we put it into VBMSR and we present it back to the employees, the rater, for them to validate and help them make that decision, that recommended decision for that. So that's we're doing that. 2 years, I think, is the time frame that we're looking at because of the way that we release the technology for automated decision support. We are factoring 2 years because of the sort of conservative approach that we are doing for automation. Change is hard. Our employees have been through the last 10 years, some huge transformation. So we're being very thoughtful as we.
To that point, because my time's running short, sir. The one thing that I continually hear is training, training, training. Once this program, this platform is implemented, are we training up for the initiation, or are we initiating and then training? Because when we implemented the PACT Act, we put the cart before the horse, and we're suffering because of it right now.
So I would say we're happening in parallel. So as new features are coming on board, we prepare the staff and we train them when it's deployed so they have the tools and necessary information necessary to do the work.
Okay, thank you. I now recognize the Ranking Member Pappas for line of questioning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tellez, if I could start with you.
On mute.
Sorry, we've been having some high IT problems ourselves.
Yeah.
Our Facebook was just hacked by a Miss Perez and a Wyatt JJ while this was going on. So that's great.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was JJ Watt tried to hack our Facebook account. So he plays for the Houston Texans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So someone faked JJ Watt's account.
I was going to say, I know I don't think he's that bad of a guy, is he?
No.
And he's like one of them that donates a lot of his time and money.
I don't think he has time for that bullshit.
Yeah. I think he's one of the big volunteers that was like during the hurricanes and stuff. He was giving out money or giving out places to stay. And
well, I like what Morgan did here is give me a name and you see the bullshit he's saying because I can see what Morgan Luttrell is setting up to do. Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
he's given him enough rope to hang him with, but the thing is that he'll hang that name right then and there.
I'll give you something right there that guy said. That Morgan Luttrell asked him. He said, "Are you training on these people first? Because with the the PACT Act, that you put the cart before the horse? Yep. No, we're training in parallel. That's putting the cart before. You don't put the horse beside the cart either.
Yeah,
I know. What she's saying pretty much is they're putting the horse beside the cart. You can't train on new software and do it in parallel.
People aren't experiments, and even the thing is, even in the what is it? That's against the Nuremberg Code.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it?
Is what?
It's against the Nuremberg Code to do that, isn't it?
I would think so.
Like if you're going to experiment at the same time.
Yeah. One, in order to experiment on people, one, it has to be humane. And two, people have to agree to do that.
Well,
you just can't foist this upon people.
And that's another thing that I do have, again, with Republicans, and same that I have with Democrats, is they both think because we're veterans that we are under different rules. But they don't realize a veteran is not under the DOD.
Well,
We
the
don't
VA
have
is
to
kind
use
of
them.
under different rules.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're not under, we're under policy, but not rules. And that's why they're usurping the Constitution with policy. And we're seeing that even in the civilian sphere.
Yeah. Sorry, my daughter's out here making all kinds of faces and everything, wanting my wife to come inside.
Yeah.
So she's being goofy.
Oh, so was all right. I busted up when you were talking earlier because Beatrice was trying to drink popcorn.
Yeah, wait till that mine are 9 and 10, so wait till she gets that age. So
Where did Paul go?
Paul,
I'm not.
looks like Paul lost signal or something.
Yeah,
he
the
must
weather's
have.
about to get really bad here. So,
So if we
But
drop out, you know
I've seen
why.
it.
all right.
Yeah, I've seen it. Y'all have got some bad weather coming in.
That's
But I was going to say one more thing about uploading all that stuff is there's so many. They're talking about searching for search words. Now, how many times? Y'all are freezing up some.
yeah, I can hear you still.
We can still hear you.
How many times have you used Google and it not come back with the right search? Maybe it's me.
Oh yeah, you are frozen now.
Yeah, it is you.
But I hear you.
Let me go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're moving just fine.
So while we're waiting for Chad, we'll go ahead and continue.
Yep. You want to throw them up?
Oh, it's muted.
Normally from frontline
Oh, there it goes.
employees that IT systems don't support their work. We heard about that directly today from Mr. Bump. And that substantiates longstanding complaints from across the country. At our hearing on PACT Act implementation last month, I asked Undersecretary Jacobs about this issue and about how we can capture user satisfaction information through surveys of VBMS users. Secretary Jacobs wasn't aware of any and promised to get back to me. So can you comment on the evidence that such surveys are happening? And is there a reason that VA wouldn't want to hear from end users about their experiences?
Thank you, Congressman. I'm not aware of any specific direct users, but we do often engage with frontline employees as we do new releases. So we engage with them prior to release, we engage with them after the release to
Weather coming in.
measure how effective was that particular release. One of the things that we are looking at since the hearing is a change management contract where we can adopt on the VBA side a survey, if you will, for a lot of things that we are deploying to measure the success of the efficiency of those tools that we are deploying.
So short of sitting next to a frontline worker at a congressional hearing, how can you capture feedback in a way that's going to inform changes in an efficient manner?
Thank you, sir. So with automated decision support, we have 16 regional offices right now. So we have dedicated weekly calls with the employees there to get their direct feedback on those specific automation tools. We have a tracker that employees are allowed to use or encouraged to use. So as they are working claims and there's something that they want to report as a ticket or issue, they support it. So we have weekly calls with them and we have weekly engagements. So I would say regular touch points with the field frontline staff. We have optimization champions that we check in to see the areas that we can identify opportunities for optimizations inside.
Well, I appreciate that information, but I think something more systemic that's also forward-leaning and proactive would provide the department the information it needs to really understand the full picture there. Mr. Bump, if I could turn to you, thanks for chronicling some of the pain points that you experience in your work. We are really grateful for the work that you do to support our veterans. And I'm wondering if you can comment on what avenues end users have of these systems to raise their concerns related to IT issues.
Thank you, Congressman. The ways that we have to interact that Mr. Tellez described, they're all after the fact. What would help, and I think help the process and of course then help employees serve veterans better, would be if we were in before these things were designed and before they were implemented as opposed to afterwards. Because a lot of the time when new systems are deployed, what VBA employees end up doing is beta testing software. And that's been the case. I've been with VA for 21 plus years. And that was the case on day one. It is the case now. We need to be involved on the front end as opposed to the back end.
Do you think there are ways that VBA and the unions specifically can work together?
Oh, certainly. I think now that we finally have a confirmed undersecretary, who I would like to thank him personally for attending our latest Labor Management Forum meeting. He listened and asked thoughtful questions on how not only unions, but the employees who we represent can better interact with VBA's management staff that puts these things together.
Okay. Now, Mr. Tellis, one thing that Mr. Bump mentioned that we've heard from employees on is this issue of needing to reboot systems. They freeze up. There's significant downtime and instability in VBMS. Do you know what the cause of those issues might be? It could be a case-by-case issue, but is there something more systemic that we should be concerned about?
I think it's probably more on a case-by-case basis. We have had some issues, but I'm not sure that I would say that there is a consistent trend for that to happen. But I can certainly take that back and go through that. Rob?
And if I could add, we do track that. So we do know by a case-by-case incident what causes that. Every time there's an outage or something like that, we do a root cause analysis. And so we do go in and we investigate what caused that incident, and we link it back to either specific thing. It could be network, it could be something with the system itself, a defect or a change that happened and did not work as expected. So we do maintain that list for every outage and every incident. We do an investigation to find out what happened and to prevent it from happening in the future.
Okay. Yield back my time.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Jim Rosedale, you recognize.
You're on mute if you're.
Yeah, it's
we're trying to get that fixed. But yeah, I like how Mr. Bump brought it up. How everything that I like how he called out Mr. Tells, Raymond Tells, by saying everything that Raymond Tells is doing is done after the fact, after something has already been broken or after a mistake has been made. But what we need to do is he basically said we need to be more proactive.
Instead of reactive.
And he's saying he's been working with the VA 21 years. This has been a problem ever since he's been there working, and it needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
He said it right there. He's like, or the guy said, we're beta testers.
Yeah.
Okay. So they put the whole system on beta tests. That's the same thing as putting the cart right next to the horse. You know, pretty much you're out there to find problems. That's what beta testing is you're out there to find problems.
Right. And if you can look in the private sector, you can sit there and look at their success, and why not copy that?
Yeah.
That's
or
another thing.
A good point is give us our healthcare freedom. Again, Demand Veteran Healthcare Freedom Act is there. Contact your congressmen, senators, and Free Choice Act. And put it, it's ridiculous. This is a dog and pony show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. And then he was even talking about encryption. You know, you noticed he mentioned encryption bringing us down. Well, I guarantee you that's the VPN stuff I was talking about, except for that's even deeper into it. And we were doing the health insurance company I worked for, we were doing a backup test on the Godwell source side, which is who does all the CMS stuff for a third of the country, and Medicare, Medicaid, and we were doing a backup test on it, and it crashed half of our systems. It took 3 weeks to get the full Medicare, Medicaid systems back online. They were working, but all that automation that he's talking about, none of that was working.
Yeah.
And folks will say the whole reason they want to put this in beta test in Veterans Affairs, they can't beta test new systems in the private sector because civilians can sue the hospital. We can't defend ourselves.
Yeah,
we can't come out against misconduct or clerical errors or what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with a miss.
We can't stand up for ourselves. Period.
Yeah.
We can't even.
Well, I mean, look how long it took. Y'all have talked about Camp Lejeune before, and I heard one of them mention Camp Lejeune, and look how long it took that.
That's what PACT Act is.
Okay. I'm sorry. Y'all know a lot more. Y'all name off so many acts, and And
Yeah, you can get lost in it. I know.
yeah, I could get lost in it, especially since I'm not a veteran, but
Yep.
I know a lot. But
Well, you want to continue this?
Yeah, we'll continue this. We have about another half hour to go. For
You recognize, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Orfsey,
I
Mr.
love
Tellez just referenced the automated data ingestion system, which is an extension of the Google Chrome browser that pre-populates information for the claims raters into
Yeah, they use Google
VBMS.
Chrome. They use
This
Google
costs
Maps
less than $2
too,
million,
instead of their own programs in
and
community
400
care.
employees are using it. Do you agree with Mr. Tellez that ADI is a success and that it should be continued?
So thank you for that question, Chairman. I think ADI has been a success in getting functionality to the users
Like
quickly.
they're going to tell you
It's been a
no.
way of getting features into the hands to help them process claims faster and more efficiently. At the same time, it has given us great input into how we could provide those features into VBMS, which, as you know, takes more time and costs more money. So this was a great way of being able to test this functionality and see whether it will work, and to be able to bring that into the VBMS in the future as we move forward.
So if it's a success, are you planning on continuing its use, or are you planning on pulling the plug on that system?
We plan on continuing the use until its features are built into VBMS. It is a browser extension, and so it is not meant to be
VBMS.
as robust and long-lasting as something that's built into the actual software.
And what kind of time frame do you think it's going to take for this to
It
be
didn't stop.
phased
The wait
out,
time's
shall we
fine.
say?
Why are
We
we
have
using
the first parts of this starting to phase into VBMS this summer. And so we're looking at rolling out through probably second quarter of the FY24.
Okay, so what I'm making sure that we don't run into is the exact same problem that we are experiencing with Oracle, Cerner, EHR, Vista, where we have a system, Vista, that is working, it's functioning, it's helping the facilities across the nation, and yet we've spent billions of dollars for the Oracle Cerner system that is not functioning, okay? Even in the 5 facilities that it's currently at, and yet we've got billions of dollars going out the door to try and create that new system when we have one that is being utilized right now to deliver those services to those facilities, to the veterans. And so what I don't want to see is this dual track investment or drain of resources when we have a system that is already working. We had IT people before us about a week and a half ago and said that the problem with VA is that they continue to try and consolidate these IT systems and make
Like
them
you were
larger
saying,
and
Jeff.
larger and larger. And they have proven that if they keep them smaller with the vendors, that they've been much more effective. Okay, so we're going to be tracking that to make sure that we don't continue to dump money into vendors to continue to make them big while we have a system that is currently functioning. Mr. Orfsey, I also want to get into, as I look at this report on page 28 out of 106,
Yeah, the wind's really
where
bad.
we look at the chart that shows how a claim is handled. One of the things that most of the people, I think, sitting at this dais and in this audience would recognize is these automated decision support systems, okay? When you call in and get a recording and you're supposed to start hitting numbers to find out where you're going to be directed to, and that automated system is trying to resolve your problem, most of us get really frustrated, okay, dealing with that system. So what I'm trying to figure out from you, or even Mr. Bump, you might have an idea about this. What are the triggers or keywords that are being utilized to make sure that this thing gets rapidly transferred to a real person to deal with our veterans? And what kind of time does that take to get them over to a real person?
So thank you for that question. I do not have an answer for that, and so we'll have to take that back for the record.
Mr. Bump, do you have any insight to that?
The time it takes to get to a real person, that I don't. But oftentimes the problem that we have in the call centers is the time limitations that the employees have to actually speak to a veteran or their spouse once they actually get to a person. the VA limit, the performance standards are set so that time is limited to, I believe it's roughly about 8 minutes.
How long they are
How long
allowed
they-
to speak to
How long
one of
the-
the veterans calling in.
Right.
Okay, so this is going to go to my other line of questioning. I'm going to give my time back. I'm out, but I've got a whole nother round of questionings.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendale. The chair now recognizes Mrs. Shifless McCormick.
All right.
What do you think?
I think it's a very good question that Mr. Rosendale asks is how long does it take for us to actually get to real people? Me and Kim have personally been on hold on the phone trying to talk to the VA for 40 minutes, an hour and a half, even
2 hours.
2 hours, and then the phone just eventually hangs up.
Or
Yeah.
then on top of that, the employee will just go click.
Yep.
Yeah, won't even pick up the phone.
You know
Just
what that
hangs up
does?
on us.
It resets.
That resets the
Yeah, so
program.
when you call the VA, there's the prompts like Mr. Rosendale was explaining. There's the prompts that you have to press in. Most of the time, we just press 0 to get to the operator,
Right.
so we can talk to a real person. But even after going through all those prompts, you're still going to be sent to the operator, no matter
Yeah.
which one of those prompts no matter what combination of prompts you select, you're still sent to the front desk of the VA hospital.
And most of the time, they go to a voice message, and then they never call you back.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And see, that's, I just as a civilian, my neurologist left his office unexpectedly. They completely shut down the whole neurology department at the office he was working at. They sent me a letter in the mail saying that he was shutting down, and I received it 2 weeks after he had shut down. And then I couldn't even get my records from him at all. And the number they gave to call, nobody answered that ever.
Well, what they do, like their computers will schedule us appointments, or they'll schedule us appointments that we don't even know about, and then they cancel it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've heard of that from y'all and a lot of veterans is how a lot of people, period. But to where they'll just schedule you an appointment and be
I
like,
had an appointment sometime in May. Never knew about it. I looked at it.
yeah. And then, it's canceled now, or you didn't ever get the
It was
letter.
or it's a no-show.
Yeah, it's considered a no-show. So
The thing is, we get appointment slips in the mail, and they're dated. Once we get them in the mail, the date is already passed.
Yeah.
So it's just
exactly.
But when we were under President Trump, always got a text message or a phone call.
Oh yeah, we got phone calls letting us know, hey, you got an appointment this week. I think we got 2 phone calls coming up.
Yeah, and the thing is, there was this old guy in there that was just so happy to do it. I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing that? And he's like, yeah.
So you got 7 days to your appointment, and then it'd be the day before your appointment. It's like, hey, your appointment's tomorrow. And he's just
And
like,
the thing is, I got the same old guy all the time. He was
Yeah.
so cool. He's like, are you sure you want it that day? Because remember, there's always another veteran that needs that appointment. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to make that appointment.
And then you get called as a no-show, and then it's like, oh, well, we did our part. Our stats are good. We did this appointment. They just didn't show up, you know. But the whole, he's also right. He's right and wrong about the whole IT thing, because a lot of it is better with big companies because they'll, like I've said before, they'll be compatible with each other. And the government is so far behind on their medical stuff. Like Microsoft Edge, I'm sure y'all have seen it before, came out in 2015. It was a panic because Microsoft quit supporting Internet Explorer last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was causing government systems to crash left and right, government programs to crash left and right because it wasn't compatible with Microsoft Edge.
Yep.
Firefox. The government hasn't supported Firefox in years and years, and they're still, and the vendor's out of business now.
Mm-hmm.
So the vendor's not even able to make updates or even contact anymore. But this is the programs they're still using.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
It's and there's funding for it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yeah,
what
and
it
there's
is.
funding
Is
for it.
it's that's what American people really need to understand is you need to open the books.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all, I want transparency on all of this. Everything from what y'all are charging for my medical bill all the way up to what y'all are spending on there. Like if I'm a veteran, I'd want, or if I was a veteran, I'd want everything from what are you charging the government for all this? I'm up here and got a Tylenol. What are you charging for it? I've been to 6 doctor's appointments and y'all don't seem to get the message that it's not what y'all are saying it is.
Right.
You know, how much are y'all charging for all this? You know?
Yep. No, but the thing is that the moment you ask that question, you're red flag.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Anytime you want to start doing digging in person, and start asking questions of the VA, it's like, oh, I don't like what this person is doing, and they flag you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look, and I mean, these people, some of these people are answering the questions pretty good, but some of, oh, I don't have that information.
They never do.
And it's not,
But that's across the board with our government right now.
That is across the board. I mean, I'm not a biologist. What kind of answer is that to a question? Or, you know, and how many of these people that they're asking are actually veterans that are actually running this crap show? Because I know a lot of IT people that are veterans.
Yeah.
I've worked with a ton of IT people that are veterans. I was tagging a lot of them on here because I used to work with them before. I shared it on my page and tagged them. So hopefully a couple of them at least come to watch. So
yeah, appreciate it. I mean, it's Saturday night. We understand.
Oh,
I do apologize, guys. We usually do this on a Friday, but we are going to be moving our show times on Friday to 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock, yeah.
On Friday or Thursday?
On Friday.
Oh, okay. I thought
no,
y'all
we're going to do Thursdays, right?
Yeah, Thursdays.
Yeah. Thursdays at 5 o'clock. And
Yeah.
then late at night, we're going to be launching Logbook Redacted. It's going to be a very fun show, so please tune in.
Yeah.
We'll get that showtime out and posted. It will be the guys.
Just guys time.
Well, just guys, huh?
We've got a few new veterans to introduce for Logbook Redacted. It'll be great.
I know how you are, Kim. Are you going to be fitting in as one of the guys?
No, it's just going to be guys. It's going to be the shenanigans, and they're going to have a good time. They're going to make fun of a whole bunch of shit. So that'll be great.
Don't get red flagged on here then. So
yeah, bring it. All right, we're going to continue this.
For her line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Or it looks
Mr.
like,
Bump, one of the most striking
bullshit.
statements made in your testimony is that it's common refrain from VSRs and RVSRs that they do not have enough work assigned to them to meet their production standards, and that they have they have to constantly request new work from their coaches. Considering the size of the backlog, this is quite concerning. Do you know if there are any technological or functional impediments to the national work queue that cause this problem? And do you have any suggestions on how we can solve and help employees serve veterans more effectively and efficiently?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. The national work queue, the way it works is it assigns work to a particular regional office based on an algorithm that
I
calculates
like how
how
he
many
roasted the VA.
work in
Our
that
VA,
office.
Houston.
What always seems to happen, though, is it doesn't assign enough work to the office to keep folks busy throughout the day. And once it gets that work to those offices, the individual supervisors assign work to the individual employee's work queue. But they hold some of it back intentionally so that when folks run out of work, they can then go to their supervisor and get more work. Further exacerbating that problem is when there's no more work left in the station's work queue. So while VA tells its employees, don't wait until you're out of work, let me know as a supervisor, let me know when you've got 1 or 2 claims left in your work queue. Then that supposedly gives your supervisor time to find more work for you to do. If we could open up the national work queue so that employees have full access to all the claims that are out there, you wouldn't have to have all those steps where an employee gets assigned not enough work to meet their performance standard on a given day. Then they have to go back to their coach. Their coach has to find work. And meanwhile, that could result in the employee sitting idle for, who knows how long.
Mr. Bump, would you mind giving the committee some perspective on the age of the IT system that make up VBMS?
Well, as I believe it was Chairman Luttrell said, VBMS is at least 10 years old. The advances in computer processing and how the private sector does things, we are behind. One anecdote that I always think of when I'm asked that question, or when I think about that question, is when I started with the VA nearly 22 years ago. In September, it'll be 22 years. I was told that BDN was going to be going away. Well, here we are 22 years later, BDN is still there. And it informs, I'm not sure of the actual interactions it has, but it's still there for a reason, and it still interacts with VBMS. So not only do you have VBMS that's 10 years old, you have other legacy systems that are even older. VBMS itself, for a system as old as it is, we're able to work in it, but we could be doing better.
And how does the age affect your work product and productivity?
Well, every time VBMS gets upgraded, there are workarounds that result. And those workarounds, not only do you have to remember what all of them are, but they add to the time that it takes to process a claim, because you have to, in some cases, manipulate VBMS, as I mentioned with the example with the RVSRs. You have to manipulate the system to get it to provide the right result, as opposed to it just providing the right result.
And do you feel that employees actually have a seat at the table as the VA plans to modernize?
Not enough of one. As I mentioned earlier, we need a seat at the table as these things are being developed, not after they're developed, and then we just end up testing them and telling VBA what doesn't work.
And my last question, in your time at the VA, do you feel like the acquisition and the procurement process, I'll yield back and access later.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Franklin, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our panel for being here today. Mr. Bump,
So it's pretty much like what I said, and we've been saying all along, Republicans, after the fact, Democrats cause the problems.
Right.
But the main thing that I'm hearing over and over from Mr. Bump in particular is sounds like he's mentioning a lot of privatization about what President Trump was trying to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he actually did ask some good questions on that one, but and then he answered them wonderfully, kind of putting down the VA again and saying that we're so far behind in technology. And, I'll have to say the VA's behind, and instead of worrying about some of the stuff and trying to put money towards some of the stuff y'all have been putting money to, or even investing in IT, quit trying to put a Band-Aid on, like he's saying there's workarounds.
Isn't it glorious when a Democrat tells another Democrat Trump was right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, these workarounds, I've seen them in private companies too, in their IT. So with like inventory systems, they'll have an updated software, but instead of updating the current software that's in there, they will just add the new software on top of the old software.
Yeah.
And so everything gets bogged down. They do this 10, 20, 30 times because you have lazy IT people going in and doing that.
Or it's some kind of senator's son that got a kickback and he still wants his kickbacks to last 10, 15 years, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hello,
Yeah.
Hunter Biden.
I mean, I don't know how many times we ran into a problem with that where people just install the new software over the old one and it goes in there. And I mean, especially in government computers, if you're staying up to date, okay, well, we installed the new software. Well, you go in there and look at software installed, both of them are installed. So it looks on there and it's like, okay, you still have the old version on here, access denied, because you're supposed to be using the upgraded version. It's kind of like if it required you to have Windows 10 to log in and you still had Windows 7, and they just installed Windows 10 on top of Windows 7. And it's like, oh no, you got Windows 7. You can't get in. So,
well, let's go ahead and do one more question for tonight.
Is now, and really, how do we get to where we need to be? So I appreciate you chronicling in your testimony the challenges that we're facing. I read all these, and candidly, what dismays me is just seeing the level of problems we're having now and where I think we need to be, and the fact that, and just in looking at the vernacular that the VA is using, we're talking automation, decision support systems. These are things that the private sector figured out a generation ago, and now that's aspirational.
The VA just figured out in 2021 that baby changing stations were needed in women's restrooms.
We've got a freight train coming down the track. We're behind now, woefully behind, I think, and where our technology ought to be, and it's going to get worse. We're not doing right by our VA employees. Even worse, we're not doing right by our customers. And personally, from having been in the military, but also the private sector side, I think your customer should be the one defining what's acceptable. To me, I don't think 125 days should be defined as a backlog. To me, that's an absolute failure. If we give people a pat on the back for meeting, because I got it in 124 days, shame on us. But how do we get to a point where when we have big data, cloud computing, predictive modeling, data analytics, are we ever going to get there with VBMS?
No.
How do we fix these programs to where we're out there proactively, helping our veterans? It ought to be, to me, there ought to be we ought to have systems that would say a veteran comes off of active duty, goes into the VA system. We know based on where they've been, what they've done, what they've been exposed to. These are the types of things that they're probably going to face down the line. How do we get out there ahead of that and help them? Or are we going to be talking about automation 20 years from now when the rest of the world passes by? I would love to yield the 3 minutes I have to the two of you to tell me how we're going to do that better.
Yes, so thank you for that question, Congressman. So there are a lot of components that we're working on today that will start to enable those features. We have come from a background when VBMS first started that this was one giant application. And so to touch any component, you were reworking all of VBMS to make sure that was working. The plan outlines how we are continuing the journey of breaking VBMS into smaller pieces. So as we we could send that work off to other places, or we can modernize smaller pieces and work with a more diverse group of providers in order to make sure those capabilities are modern and up to date. As part of that work, we are also decommissioning a lot of our legacy systems that we have out there. We have components of VetsNet that we are modernizing into new modules within either part of VBMS or standalone modules by themselves that interact across the other work modernization that we are doing, which is making it simpler for employees as they don't have to switch between tools, but also enabling future work in which we can connect those big data to make sure all the systems can use that data that is available, and that we could integrate with other service providers like VBA is doing on the automated decision support, so we could bring those new capabilities to bear. Right now, it is very difficult to do that with some of the environment that's still outstanding from our legacy updates. And so within 2 years, the plan is really getting us off those legacy components to enable that work. We're not really happy with how fast we're going, but we appreciate the support that we've gotten around PACT Act. And this is enabling us to accelerate a plan from 10 years down to 5. And we're always looking for opportunities.
Ooh, 5 years.
PACT
Act people are dying now.
Sir, I would just like to add on the VBA side, we are using a professional services contract provider to help us with the claims automation. So they are bringing to bear the latest technology, automation tools to help us as we are accelerating the claims processing time to get to a rater so they can make a decision
I believe it when I see it.
for veterans.
Hey, Dakota, I guarantee you will get this modern technology of today 10 to 15 years from now.
VA has always been kind of slow with adapting to change. And the common refrain, and this goes back to, at the very least, General Hickey when she was the VBA undersecretary. It's a big ship, and it takes a long time to turn it around. I hope that we get it right. But
You
I also
can't
hope
sit
that
there and
we
play hope we get it right.
keep in
when
mind
there's
the people
human
who are
element of human
doing
error.
this work, and that we train them on these new systems. and that
Training,
we
here you go.
involve
We need
them
to have
in
a
the
training
design
meeting.
of the new systems.
Every time these hearings, they say
That's
training.
what I don't see enough of right now is the involvement in as we're designing these things, because the people who use these systems are the ones who are probably best informed as to what they should contain and how they should work.
Thank you. And I'm over my time, but hope is not a plan of action, and that's why we look to the gentleman to your right for that. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
At
yield
least
back.
you caught that.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Mr. McGarvey, sir.
All right.
Hope is
I
not.
got a question for you, Chad.
Go ahead.
So, how easy would it be for someone in the VA, someone who's in charge of all this IT stuff, to go into a private hospital and just hit copy paste on all their software and then transfer it over to them? I know that's like a dumb thing to ask, but
no, it's really not. It's really not, because I don't know about a hospital, but I know when it comes to records and stuff like that, claims and stuff like that through Medicare and Medicaid, it is not that easy.
Okay.
And they've taken a lot of that away in the last 5 years or so, which is probably why even more of this is crashing now, because you've got to. Sorry, I don't know if y'all.
No, I have a baby getting naked right now.
Oh my goodness.
Now
she's got.
The thing is I feel like, again, it's the same rhetoric over and over and over again, and I can feel that they are completely serious on this committee on getting shit done.
I hope so. They seem like it. I mean, I'm
being sarcastic.
Well,
on that, I mean, you have the thing is, these people are not even in Congress. You know, they're not seeing the people dying. They're not sitting here listening to these phone calls because, you know, veterans are giving up.
They don't even sound like they're in IT, to be honest with you. They don't even sound like they work in IT, except for the one bearded guy. What's his name? Bart or what was it? Bump. Okay, I knew it was something crazy. He's the one that sounds like he knows more about IT than anybody on there, and able to give the most direct thing. Other than we hope, you know.
You know, here's the thing. I guarantee you, if you got Chick-fil-A to come in there, they would do it. And they could fix it like that. Because they make it about.
They don't have to worry about the VA. Doesn't have to worry about that. There is no competition with the VA, so they're talking about.
Yeah, they're not worried about
the customers.
Yeah.
Where else are you gonna go?
They do refer to us veterans as customers. No, bitch, this is an earned benefit.
Well, that's kind of what it's kind of hard to do, because I mean, even when I worked at big businesses, we called the other employees.
But when you do that, you know, the psychology involved with that. Oh, if they're customers and everything, now the VA thinks they're a private business.
Oh, that's true.
Okay,
that's true.
That's very important. And that's where the confusion is. It's like, oh, well, we'll ask you to leave. You have to leave. Why? I'm in a public space on federal property in a public building, and I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, when a private business asks you to leave, you have to leave. No. And that's what it is too with these employees.
That's true.
They do not believe that they are government employees. That's why the verbiage is very important, because of the psychology involved in it. I believe
that's true.
I don't know if it's true or not, but stop acting like a business government.
Yeah, we're not customers, we're patients.
Right. And the thing is the reason why Chick-fil-A works, because they put their customers first.
Right.
VA would work if they truly felt and believed that veterans come first. And obviously, from the bullshit of this panel, they don't care.
I don't disagree with that at all.
22 veterans a day.
Agree with that 100%, not to use a double negative. Here's another thing that they keep talking about, and they're all talking about it, is training.
Yeah.
Now, I looked up the turnover rate of the VA, and it's 10%, but that's of the entire VA.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what the turnover rate of those claims people are. Because I know my friend, one of Kim's friends, worked for one of the parent or the brother companies or sister companies that I worked for. So I did her IT work, and she's a claims adjuster or a claims person. And she became a trainer in about 2 years because their turnover rate was so high that hardly any of them stayed more than a year.
I believe that they are lying about the numbers because clearly they're fudging the wait time scandal. It's very clear they are because of the patient indication date. And I believe, and as you can see here from the board, they can never say anything bad about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. We've knocked it down from 10 years to 5 years because of PACT Act.
Golf club.
So, and here's the thing is that you're telling me you can predict the future that well? Then, bitch, if you can do that, tell me the lottery numbers for tomorrow. So
and they're talking about their systems are outdated by 10 years.
Yeah, but that's the problem is that by the time that they fund this system and actually do it,
it'll be outdated by 10 years again.
It's going to be obsolete.
They were
it's
outdated
by the time we get it.
So
they were outdated by 10 years when they upgraded 10 years ago.
Exactly. So it's so simple and no one's willing to say it. Let veterans go. Okay. The private sector works. Okay. Capitalism works. Get rid of this socialist bullshit and quit growing it.
Feds are already donating all this money to the private sector for healthcare already. So, I mean, you think they just build up a new hospital and don't get any federal money for it?
Oh, no, they do.
You know, I mean, why? Just as an example of that in the private sector of how much money they get, look at, it was a very old hospital. Now it's the haunted hospital, but the hospital that was in New Orleans during Katrina, that they said the bottom floor got flooded on in the basement. So they built a whole new hospital instead of fixing that one. You think they did that on their own? If they did, then that shows how much they're ripping off customers.
The basement here at Houston and MD Anderson always floods, and they're still using that hospital.
Yeah. Well, I forget how old that was like one of the first hospitals in New Orleans. So it was very old and outdated as far as stuff went, but it could have been fixed and opened as a damn VA or something like that. So, you know, but anyway, I mean, I'm just saying they were already that outdated. They're just trying to keep up with modern, even modern technology now. I mean, like we were saying about them being outdated, y'all are trying to do everything through an app. And
the app crashes all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And even modern society has only been doing stuff through apps for about the last 15 years or so, like to where you could just go and, you know, book an appointment online and you expect y'all stuff to, it's already.
Oh, I will say this. This is another problem with the VBMS system is that you can access, or some of the system, I'm not sure if it's VBMS or not, is that once a record is submitted, you can go back in and edit them.
Mm-hmm.
The VA can go change them.
That's interesting. See, that would be a security problem right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is that who necessarily has access, because people still, VA employees still veterans IDs all the time.
Mm-hmm. There's one woman just got sent 6 years and charged over $300,000 in fines. Sarah Kavanaugh, for stealing a veteran working. She was a VA employee, stole a veteran's DD-214, put her name and social security number on it, and took all of his medals.
There was one even more recent than that.
Yeah.
And I know I posted it on the feed. Well, guys, that brings us past our time. We thank you for joining us tonight. Remember, You take care of each other, take care of your family. That comes first. Love your God. Love your country. Thank you, Chad, for joining us. And thank you for spending your Saturday nights with us. Take care and God bless.
You too. And if you don't like it, truck it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry if I was too much all over the place tonight with all of that stuff. I just get reminded about too much stuff hearing them people talk. So.
I know. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Y'all have a good night.